In the gospel, Jesus tells us the place of meeting, the gospel, John tells us that the place of meeting between Jesus and the Samaritan woman was at a well. Because he's preparing us for a love story. Because a well in the Old Testament times was the place of courtship. It was a place of courtship. Our God is a wooer who doesn't force his love upon us, but woos us into falling in love with him. This gospel is a love story with some very interesting differences. Jesus has traveled to Samaria, a foreign land with its very different customs. There at the well he encounters not a girl, but a woman, who is seemingly not such a great prize. No innocent maid, she is far too worldly and experienced. There is a lengthy discussion about the drawing of water. Jesus asked, "Give me a drink." He was the first to approach the Samaritan woman. In the world that surrounds each one of us, we know many people who are thirsting for love, thirsting to belong, and thirsting to know the meaning and purpose of their lives. On the cross, Jesus said, "I thirst. I thirst." Listen to how St. Teresa of Calcutta describes this. At this most difficult time, he proclaimed, "I thirst." And people thought he was thirsty in an ordinary way, and they gave him vinegar straight away. But it was not for that thirst. It was for our love, our affection, that intimate attachment to him, and that sharing of his passion. He used "I thirst" instead of "give me your love." She says that Jesus said, "I thirst for you, just as you are. You don't need to change to believe in my love, for it will be your belief in my love that will change you. All your life I have been looking for your love. I have never stopped seeking to love you and to be loved by you. You have tried many other things in your search for happiness. Why not try opening your heart to me right now, more than you have ever have before? Open to me, for I thirst for you." St. Teresa of Calcutta says, "I thirst" is something much more deeper than Jesus saying, "I love you." Until you know deep inside that Jesus thirsts for you, you can't begin to know who he wants to be for you, or what he wants you to be for him. Many believe they have made such a mess of their lives that God does not want to have anything to do with them. They are, of course, quite wrong. The Samaritan woman had made a mess of her life, and yet Jesus loved her and wanted to restore her to wholeness. Jesus thirsts for our love, our salvation. No one must feel unworthy of his love. We have a God-shaped hole in our hearts. that only God himself can fill. We spend our time trying to fill that God-shaped hole with other things other than God. The more we drink of the other things, the thirstier you and I get. This thirst is simply wanting to fall in love with God, who's already in love with us. Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment of the thirst in our hearts. The Samaritan woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may not be thirsty." She was saying, "I want this. I want you." Why does Jesus make such a tremendous impact on this woman? Because he first loves her. He shows her mercy. He forgives her. Isn't this the kind of experience we wish for ourselves during Lent? Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, comes to fill that God-shaped hole in each one of us. Jesus can satisfy the thirst in our hearts and fill the emptiness in our lives. St. Francis of Assisi once said, "Jesus, you are enough for me. You are all that I need." Ponder that. Is he all that we need? In her excitement, the Samaritan woman runs to invite the villagers to come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. Probably the first man to know her so well without rejecting her. After all, isn't that the whole meaning and purpose of love and witness? To share God's good news and love with those around us, especially those living on the margins and those who are spiritually impoverished. God loves us and will always love us. God will not abandon us, and he will bring us to heaven if we want to go there. The Samaritan woman, in a personal encounter with Jesus, confronts her own selfishness, her own sinfulness, and her own need for forgiveness. She comes to realize the depth of God's love for her. She reconciles with God. Her life is transformed. She then goes forth to share with others her faith story of what she has felt, seen, and heard of this Jesus. Jesus says, "I thirst for you, just as you are." Let us hear him saying it to you and to me. Saint Mother Teresa made Jesus' statement, "I thirst," so personal that she told her sisters to imagine Jesus saying those words directly to them. To put their own name before "I trust." And hear Jesus saying, for example, Sister Mary Vincent, "I thirst." We, you and I, can do the same. In the silent presence of God, in a quiet place at home, in front of the Blessed Sacrament in church, or in front of the monstrance in the Adoration Chapel, we can prayerfully imagine Jesus gently calling our name and speaking his parting words from the cross, personally to each one of us. Michael, I thirst. I'd like you to repeat with your own name. Put your name in and say, I thirst. He thirsts for you. He thirsts for me. When we know that in our heart, we can do anything, become anything, be anything. All in his name. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross